Hello, ECED 2360 students. So this week we are working on Module 6. Now, I did allow us to have some extra days for Module 5, so we're starting Module 6 a little later than what our calendar says. So we are going to be working on Module 6, which really dives into social development, right? And sometimes students who have special needs also need some extra support with social skills. Also, how do we help manage those challenging behaviors? And sometimes developing these social skills really is all about how we're supporting them in the classroom because we know that it's very important for them to learn those for their well-being, but also it's a lifetime, skill that most students need to have. So this can be accomplished many ways. We can support them in the classroom with our peer interactions, helping them forge new friendships. But we also have to look at how does the disability impact, right, that development. And really, a lot of this Module 6 is going to cover that. But as your role in the classroom, you have to support those social skill development. And we have to look at what strategies would help them. We also have to look at those executive functions, right? And that regulation, how these things play a key role in the child's success. And how are these social settings introduced? How is your classroom set up? How are the interactions? Is it warm? So all these things going back to the environment section, right, of universal design for learning, which we've been learning about throughout the semester, and as you are completing your inclusive practices field work, the environment plays a key role in this too. So if students have challenging behavior, sometimes it is chronic. Sometimes it's related to their disability, but we know that this can interfere with their ability to interact with other people, right? And we have to intervene. So the module 6 also is covering how do we recognize that the behavior becomes a problem, right? What is the why behind the behavior, like finding out why this is happening, determining the meaning of the challenging behavior, and then creating a plan. And how do we create a plan is first we have to do a functional behavior assessment so we can figure out what's going on and why this behavior is occurring. Then we can put a plan in place, right? So we have a model that really supports those challenging behaviors and we prevent them from happening, but we also support them socially, right? So we're looking at these two things in a module 6. So what you're going to do is you have your two lessons, 6.1 and 6.2. There are some video links in there, and there is also going to be a way for you to discuss this with your peers through a discussion board activity, which I felt would be most beneficial to you, seeing at this is a really good way for us to interact talking about social skills and how we support students. So I wanted to make a note and a change here inside the calendar. I did go ahead and extend the field work. It is now going to be due April 14th, which I feel would help you, especially since we're a little bit behind, a week behind in the course. So that gives you a little extra time to get that done. I have had some people reach out to me, so please reach out should you have any questions. So, how you're going to be assessed this week is going to be your discussion activity as well as your Module 6 quiz. So, those things are really going to be a way that I can assess your learning. So, getting into Module 6, there's lots of resources for you to look at as we're going through. Obviously, I want you to look at the focusing questions before you start in our objectives. So, really, our objectives are going to be we're looking at defining those social skills, right? And explain the importance of them in early childhood, especially looking at those who have disabilities. We're also going to recognize those executive function skills. Remember, this is a critical point in development. What are the common triggers that impact children? We're also looking at how they play a role and how they are significant with the ACES scores and what does ACES stand for. And then we're going to look at how do you use a functional behavior assessment to develop a behavior intervention plan. So, those objectives really help meet our course outcomes, right? We want to be able to identify recommended practices and elements for inclusive early childhood programs. We're going to know and understand the cause, classification, and characteristics of developmental disabilities. And that's important because we're going back to the social skills, right? And how they're developing with their disability and how that plays a role and impacts them, not only academically, but also socially. And then we really want to work with a multidisciplinary team, right? So we can coordinate effective resources and plans and be able to meet those goals for that child. Okay, so some questions to think about for the first lesson are really going back to those social skills. What are they and how do they impact development? What are some conditions that impact the development of typical social skills? And then also, as a teacher, right, how do you facilitate the learning of appropriate social skills? Where are these embedded? And then also, what are the executive function skills? And how do they relate to the child's success? Now, remember, we're looking at both social settings and situations as well as educational. Now, the second lesson, we're going to dive a little deeper and we're looking at the challenging behavior. What is challenging behavior? And what is a relationship? How do we address the challenging behavior? Looking at the CSEFEL pyramid model, right? What that is and how does that help us support that child? Also, what are some positive behavior supports, right? And going back to that school wide positive behavior support, the SBPSs, how is this different than traditional discipline? Looking at those models. What is a functional approach, right? So we're looking at that. And what kind of methods are you used to determine the function of challenging behavior? With that being said, we should be able to develop a hypothesis of function of that behavior. That helps us put a support plan. So, what is a behavior support plan and how is it used? And then, what kind of strategies can we implement to help prevent those challenging behaviors? So, those are really our guiding questions and objectives for Module 6. So, looking here, I also listed the vocabulary and key concepts for you to look at. And then you'll see here you have your lesson 6.1 and then your lesson 6.2. Okay. Now, your discussion activity is here as well as the link to the quiz. I did want to note that the inclusive practices fieldwork has been extended, the due date, and you'll see the new due date there. So looking real quick at the discussion activity, we're looking back at what we learned in those two lessons, right? Social skills, executive functions, self-regulation, challenging behaviors, behavior assessments that we might do, and then coming up with a behavior intervention plan, right? So for this, we're going to take all the things we learned and we're going to look at social skills and support. I have a video here called Fight, Flight, or Freeze. So what you're going to do is you're going to be looking at how does stress affect a child's brain development. So when we know we're under stress, right? We're in a situation where we're stressed, we're going to do one of the three things. We're going to fight, flight, or freeze. A child does the same thing. So we're really looking at how stress impacts them. So what I want you to do is you're going to watch this video called The Effects of Stress on a Child's Brain Development. And thinking about after you're watching this video, think about experiences that children have, right? That's in their home, like we're outside of school, right? That can trigger experiences to the forefront, right? They're going to have triggers. What are these triggers? So, this is also not only looking at socially, but behaviorally. So, in this activity, the goal is for you to really identify possible strategies when children are experiencing stress, right? When they're experiencing specific triggers, how can you help them? What strategies can be put in place? So, you have a PowerPoint here that's going to help you dive a little deeper called Understanding and Responding to Adverse Childhood Experiences. So, they actually use these PowerPoint for traumatized children, right? So, on slide 11 in the PowerPoint, it has a section where it talks about the 7 triggers, right? And what we're going to do is there are three responses that children are going to respond to when there's stressful situations. They're going to do fight, flight, or freeze. I want you to identify a strategy that addresses each of those fight, flight, and freeze. Um, in the context of a trigger. Now, remember, you have to follow the guidelines that are suggested in the PowerPoint. So this PowerPoint really is going to help you. It's going to show you the 7 triggers, and it's going to look at each of these triggers: fight, flight, or freeze. And these strategies you're going to develop are going to help with each situation that the child is displaying, the fight, flight, or freeze. And what you're going to do is you're going to provide a rationale, right, about why you chose the strategy. So you're going to take it a step further. Not only are you going to give me the strategy you would use for fight, flight, or freeze trigger, but why would you choose that for that child? Okay, now remember, you have to have at least half a page for this discussion. Remember, you as a teacher, right, think about your teaching practice, right? And think about the environment and think about the trauma and the things that have happened and how you would address that. Don't forget, you need to respond to at least one other peer in the class to get full points for that section in the rubric. All right, guys, so please reach out should you have any questions. I think this is a really good module. I feel that it's going to open your eyes to some things and make you start thinking about your own classrooms that you're working in, and in your future classroom, because you will have some challenging behaviors. You will have children who have experienced trauma, and then also have children who have disabilities where that's impacting their social skills. So, this module really is going to help you be able to support the children in your classroom. All right, guys, until next time, take care.